Hello, and welcome to episode 3 of Blue Leadership with your host, Dennis Nayor. Dennis is a 25-year law enforcement veteran and retired chief from the state of New York. He's also a proud graduate of the 240th session of the FBI National Academy and the 61st session of the FBI Lead a Command Institute. The Blue Leadership video podcast is brought to you by the nationally ranked Masters of Science in Law Enforcement and Public Safety Leadership program at the University of San Diego. You can learn more about the LEPSL program at criminaljustice.sandiego.edu. And with that, I will kick things over to your host to introduce our featured guest. Thank you so much.
Kylie, thank you. And so without any further ado, today's featured guest is Dr. Ygnacio Nash, to all those who know him, Flores. And he has quite an extensive background from the military and the educational and academic worlds. And normally I can recite most of that from memory, but I don't want to miss something important. So I'm just going to go and give a quick bio read of who we have here today. So Dr. Flores he's the coordinator for the Homeland Security program at Rio Hondo College. Formerly, he was the dean of Public Safety and interim dean of business at Rio Hondo College. He's a retired lieutenant commander in the U.S. Navy and prior a senior chief master at arms. He's a Gulf War veteran. He served in leadership assignments specializing in law enforcement, physical security, antiterrorism, force protection, fire protection, homeland security, and emergency management. On the academic side, he has a doctorate in education from the University of Southern California, a president's and key executives MBA from Pepperdine University, a master's in Homeland Security from Pennsylvania State University, and a master's in international relations from the University of San Diego. He's also completed the Navy's War College Command and Staff Program, the Executive Education Program at Harvard Kennedy School in Leadership in Crisis, Cybersecurity, and Masters in Negotiation. And I'm sure there's more, but suffice it to say, we're very lucky to have Dr. Flores with us today. So Dr. Flores, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Chief Nayor. It's my pleasure to be here.
Yes, and one of the things that we really focus on is leadership, because when we break everything down, that becomes really what everything else hinges on. And really my first question is, if you can just share with us from your experiences, which we just enunciated, what really it is the true foundational principles of leadership are to you.
I think to me, true foundational leaderships are personal integrity. Some of these might sound cliche, but authenticity. You have to be able to walk the walk, talk the talk. I think it's important that we model what we expect from those around us, and we show others how to get to a point where we're at right now. So that's what I would say the foundation of real leadership are. You can take all the theories, but when you get down to it and you see people like yourself and other faculty members we have here, they all have a high level of personal integrity.
And have you found, so in your academic settings, do you see people that just naturally have that it factor, that you can see them as a potential leader, or if they're a leader that you know they're going to reach the top because of maybe a level of charisma, maybe a drive? Can you now pick that up pretty easily?
Oh yes, I see that a lot. I see it in the younger students, how they interact in the classroom. I like to give a lot of group assignments. Talk to me, and there's something there, and it might be any one of those or a combination of those factors that you mentioned. And I'd like to pull them off to the side. Hey, have you thought about this? Because most people, actually, I had a conversation earlier today with a student, and I said, you can be a leader, you can do this. And they said, well, I can't talk to anyone in public. I said, you're talking to me. Talk to me the way you talk to me, talk to other people, and you have it in there. In the military, of course, I had a little more control what I could do, and those people, yes, you can target them. You can start to develop those skills and hone those natural abilities, but you also have to back it up with education. That's going to be my theme here: is we need education to really make that superior leader.
Yeah, for sure. And I think a lot of times people think they have to have a level of rank or something bestowed upon them to be a leader, when really anyone who's in a capacity that affects others naturally has to be a leader. So now that's where you really have to draw it out and expand it.
Oh, exactly. And one example I like to give, one of the best leaders I saw in my life, it was the janitor at my high school who took care of the boilers. And then I just tell examples of how he guided me and other people when we were in high school. Awesome leader.
Yeah, for sure. And I think we all know them. And this is going to bring us right into really the heart of what I want to ask you is
Mhm.
how do you feel the LEPSL program provides that foundational, for those who are viewing this, who may be interested in it, obviously it's the Law Enforcement and Public Safety Leadership Program at the University of San Diego. An amazing, amazing program. How, in your vision, do you see it as providing that platform to expand one's current leadership, further develop it? How do you see it as doing that?
One of the things that I like about this program, it depends a lot on the faculty, which are academic practitioners or academics, depending which term you want to use. So they're people who are from law enforcement, so they understand how it operates, but they also understand the theories. And then we also have people that practice law in here. We have military leaders. So all that comes together, and you have just hundreds of years of experience in this program here. And I think we all use a pedagogical approach in our classes where, from what I've seen, we all want to teach our students, which are usually young officers, how to think. And I think that is just huge in this program. And also our curriculum here, it provides that critical content to show people how to think critically, how to develop their thought processes, and how does that apply not only to just law enforcement, how does that apply to the application of law enforcement across communities?
Right. So now we are at the crossroad of crossroads within law enforcement profession. Everything that's
Hmm.
been done is being reevaluated. Changes are occurring, and more so now than ever. And if we look at 2020 as into where we are right now, obviously still working through the pandemic and new viral variants, and you're looking at the civil unrest and the reimagining process and the spike in violent crimes and the shortage of policing and recruitment and retention and everything, you name it. How, if in your opinion, does leadership play in to modern day policing in terms of addressing all of these key crucial issues?
Well, there's many, and as you said, there's so many factors that impact law enforcement today, and I think as leaders, what we have to do is, one, understand we're not going to fix it today or this week or this month or even this year. We have to look down the road. It's going to take a time. It can even take generations to fix what are the perceived problems, and some are real in law enforcement, and the reform that we're looking for. But we have to, as you said earlier, find those young officers, see something in them, take them aside, start develop them as leaders, because they're the ones that are going to really come up with those ideas 10, 20 years down the road that's really going to change law enforcement. So we have to make sure they have the knowledge and support from us as leaders to make those changes in the future that will, I don't want to use the word fix law enforcement, but it will improve or enhance law enforcement.
And would you agree with all of the challenges, and I just cited a few, that leadership would be really become what's going to make the difference between getting through them or not?
Oh, definitely. If you don't have the leaders, one, uh, what's going to happen is um, you're just going to do the same things over, or you're going to go down a path that really isn't going to solve anything. And leadership means sometimes you have to say no. And I think that's one of the important things about leadership. One of the things I learned in the military, I had a great uh, commanding officer I worked for, and probably all of them at some point said, tell me no when I'm wrong. And we have to be able to say, no, we can't do that. You might have to tell a city mayor, city manager, no, we can't do that. We are restrained by laws on what we can do. We have to understand that. If we want to change those, then we have to work with community leaders, legislators, and say, this is how we do the change. We can't do it in a knee-jerk fashion, because we saw what happened with that in throughout various states that have changed laws, and now people are rethinking maybe that wasn't the best thing to do. We really need our law enforcement.
For sure. And I think a lot of that also for the person in that top position to really do an evaluation of themselves. Some places, if they're really open to it, they'll do a 360-degree review and let them receive feedback. Sometimes people may think that they're doing everything right and maybe they're missing the mark. And I really think, to me, it's a skill that you always have to continue to hone and to continue to see how you can do whatever it is you're doing better.
Oh, definitely. And I actually like to call that a 720, because you can do that 360 in your known environment and then go outside your environment and do it again. Because what you do is what you do as the chief, you're walking someplace, you're in a grocery store and someone comes up to you, they know who you are. And this has happened to us many times, and you start talking to them and you leave, and you might be with your wife and let's say, who was that? And I said, it's just someone from the community. But whatever they had to say to bother you was very important to them. So sometimes do that 720, go out there, really see how you are, assess what you're doing, say, am I doing this right? Am I doing this wrong? And I think a good leader has a leadership team under them as checks and balances. I have a situation, where I went to years ago, and I had a very good manager. There's only two of us, and that was Professor Don Mason, and he would routinely tell me, "No, that's not what you need to do at this point." Or we would talk and we'd hash things out. And it's always good to have that other voice in there to say, "Is this necessary, or is this what we want to do?" Very important leadership. Leaders. We're out there in the front, but we're not alone. We need a leadership team between us and the people that we supervise, and between us and community, and together we can work on providing the best law enforcement.
Yeah, definitely. And for that, a good leader, they have to check their ego at the door, because they got to be ready to hear what
Yes.
they're doing isn't right, or they're off track, or you have to reevaluate, and the ego could be the destroyer of all that. So I think it's important to know that going in.
Oh, definitely. And actually that's come up in that topic's come up in a couple of the courses that I've taught, is curbing your own ego, saying, okay, let me step back. Let me look at it from their perspective. And I said, wow, I probably really look terrible doing this when I could do something else. And sometimes it's just only a few minutes to step back, reassess your situation, and then approach it with new eyes and new thoughts.
Yeah, for sure. And this kind of brings me into really a question that I think a lot of the viewers will want to hear is, can you describe an example of something where you think leadership really made the difference, maybe in something big or small, for maybe your time in the military, or, something you've been involved in where it was the leadership at the time that made the difference in success or failure?
Yeah, definitely. Actually, kind of with law enforcement. About 11 years ago, working at Rio Hondo College, the police academy was suspended, so it was shut down for test security. Some people called it cheating, whatever it was. So, of course, there's always people on both sides of the fence. So we were shut down by California Post. There was only a few people that were still there, and then I was the director. I then became the dean, and I said, you have to get us recertified and get us back up. And it was a very volatile environment to work in. A lot of people lost their jobs. Some people said, I only did what I was told to do. And it wasn't so much, I didn't want to focus on placing blame any place. I said, how do we fix this? Working with Post, as I told you, I put together a leadership team, and together we went. So we had our goal. We had to recertify the police academy, work together. And it wasn't just within the law enforcement side of the house. We also worked on the fire side of our house. And I brought leaders together from all the key areas. So we had classified, we had faculty, we had managers. And together we set a course, and we steered that course, and we got the police academy recertified again. And that was through the leadership, individual people at their own functions, but coming together at the top. And then we discuss this once a week, and sometimes more times than that. And how do we do this? How do we fix the range? How do we bring in the right recruit training officers? Had a great coordinator, Captain Maciso Sikian. He was with us, and he helped us out. As I told you, Professor Mason was the associate dean there. And we did this while also doing all their other functions at the same time. And I have to say that that was probably one of the proudest things I did from a leadership perspective. And I realized it wasn't just me, it was that whole team working together. And yet I was in the front taking us to where we needed to go.
Yeah, and really what this is so you're coming at challenges from a solutions point of view, and how do we get from where we are to where we need to go, but also harnessing the energy of all of those who are stakeholders, and that's
Right.
true leadership. And as humble as you are to acknowledge that it's everyone together that does it, but obviously the leader's the conductor of the orchestra, but without the people playing the instruments, it doesn't happen. And so I think that's
Exactly.
a
Yeah,
perfect
that's
example.
yeah, that's great, because if you try and do everything alone, especially in any law enforcement leadership role, I think you're going to be left out. You can't know everything. You can't do everything. You have to bring everyone into that picture, and it includes the community too. We were really involved with the community, involved with our clients, which would be the chiefs in our area, everyone who used us. So that was a really challenge, a significant challenge that I had, I guess, over my years. But it was satisfying to know that the academy was recertified and it's still operating today.
That's awesome. And when you were just saying, primarily you were just saying in law enforcement, and that actually segues to our next question is, what do you see as the primary differences and or similarities between law enforcement leadership and military leadership? Obviously, law enforcement is a quasi-military organization by a lot of the way it functions, but there's differences. So with that, can you just share your thoughts as to the
That's interesting, because there's a lot of crossover, and I think a lot of people in the public don't understand the differences there. So with my occupational specialty being law enforcement, in the militaries, I had a law enforcement function. I also had a military function, and there was a definite line of demarcation between those two. When I was in law enforcement, I was working as any other police officer. When I was doing my military roles, I was in the military, and separating those lines really helped out in distinguishing the difference. And I know a lot of people like to say they're both the same, but there's some real big differences. Actually, I'm working on an article right now. It's kind of based on a class I'm updating right now on civil military relations. I says, well, what is it to look like in community law enforcement relations? Because in law enforcement, our relations are more at the lower level, so municipal or county, and that's where all the dynamics are taking place. You do have influences from the state or the federal side, where in the Department of Defense, you definitely have um, at the federal level. But one of the biggest thing I notice in there is professionalism. And if you look at the history of the military, is they went up and down. That's just the nature of our country. We have a war, it ramps up. We finish a war, it ramps down, and there's this roller coaster cycle that we have. But it's at the worst times when the leadership really comes up in the military. And one of the things that they've done is they're very into education training, but education. The military spends a significant amount of their funds to educate their officers, educate their enlisted. Now we have enlisted people that are as educated, if not more educated, than the officer corps, and that is really good. So you can see that difference, and I see that difference in military law enforcement compared to some law enforcement officers I see at the municipal level, especially some of the smaller jurisdictions don't have the money to send someone to college. And I think one of the things that we need to do in law enforcement is really create an educational pipeline for advancement. And I know that here in California, we have post, other states have similar organizations where you say, oh, well, you go to sergeant school. And you might go, it could be 40 hours, 80 hours. But I think you really need to invest that critical thinking that I mentioned before. Is how do you think? Why are you thinking? And what should you consider when you're creating choices for decisions? And I think the biggest difference I see is professionalism. We're all professionals, but the biggest distinction on the military side is they put a lot more investment into education than law enforcement generally. There's some departments that are really great. They send people out. And then what that does is another thing I'd like to say about the LEPSL program here at San Diego is that with our academic practitioners and the way the curriculum is designed, it's very unique curriculum. It's a short course, but it's also based around scenarios and stuff. I think the LEPSL program has brought together some of the best thought leaders in law enforcement. And we can only do that through education. So I'm a strong proponent of education. And that's how we'd close that gap.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And when I used to hire officers, we would look for those who had the college education, and not because they were necessarily smarter, but you knew they had a growth mindset in terms of improving themselves. And you knew that they had an expanded awareness because, they went out and they were amongst other people and they were in a learning environment. And let's face it, law enforcement, military, it's constant learning. You're never done. And the minute you're done is the time that a person should retire from either. And I think you'll know from the budgeting courses you teach that the training and education pays itself 10 times over in value for that investment. So I couldn't agree more. And I think that all police chiefs and law enforcement leaders should be looking at how that they can make that happen. And it's sad that when budgets are looked at to where they could save, they look at training, but that's the one area they should look at last.
Right. And I was going to mention that is unfortunately training, it takes a hit in the budget when you got to go and you're trying to balance those different line items. And sometimes someone who doesn't know says, I'm taking your training away. And then 2 years down the road, they have a significant OIS or something that really looks bad on the department. And then they'll say, well, why wasn't this person trained? And if you walk it back, say, because you took this money out of my training budget.
For sure.
So those long-term effects, so watch what you do. And I think this is more for those that impact law enforcement budgets, is think about what you do, because you don't necessarily consider all the consequences down the road. And so when you start cutting money, you can actually be negatively impacting your capabilities and your capacity down the road.
For sure. And you and I could probably speak on this topic for an hour just on this topic alone. But suffice to say, I couldn't agree more. And what I want now, in addition to education, what other things can someone do to make themselves the best possible leader, in your opinion? Obviously, education is going to be a staple foundation. What else can they do?
Be a mentor. You have to be a mentor, and you have to model yourself. Because if you tell someone to do something and you don't do it yourself, then you're not valid anymore, and people will see that. Your officers will see that. The people in the community will see that. So if you say I can't do that, then don't do that. And I've known chiefs that will give stories of where their wives or their mothers get tickets, and they'll say, I'm not fixing that. If I don't do it for the average citizen, I'm not going to do it for you. And that's that kind of mentorship you got to show, and everyone says, wow, they paid the ticket. Well, if they, violated the law, then yeah, that's what they got to do. And it's when we get those controversies where someone does something and then it's hypocritical, and they're saying, well, now you've just come down as a leader in my eyes, and you need to be there. So I think the next thing we need to add to that is mentorship, because then you can guide them through. And with mentorship, an important part of mentorship is value mistakes. Your officers going to make mistakes. We made mistakes, right? And I'm sure we could all say, wow, in today's world, I probably would have gotten fired. But I had a good boss who said, hey, you did something wrong. Let's rehash this situation. Let's go through it one more time. What did you do here? What did you do there? And it's both in military and law enforcement. No one died this time, but next time you don't know. So how can you do this? Use mistakes to develop our future leaders. So you have the education, you have the training that you do, but mentorship also plays a big role in that. And that's what we have to do. And it doesn't stop once you retire. We're both involved in education now. It continues on, but we can actually say something with authority. We can still mentor. The great mentorship program in the Navy, I still get contacted from people that I mentored in the Navy. And I think we see that every now and then. I'll still get an email from one of the LEPSL students that want to say something, or one of my undergrad students. They'll send me an email. Hey, I was thinking about this. What about that? And I can tell them, well, if this is a career path you want, consider this. That's where the real value of us as law enforcement leaders, whether you're in education or not, is you have to continue to mentor people. And that is, again, leadership is developing that next generation of leaders. That's a big role that we have.
For sure. And as you know, leadership is all about people, and mentoring, it actually probably makes one of the best attributes to the leader themselves, because they have to think about every nuance of whatever it is you're teaching and not just kind of go through the motions. And you become better as a leader yourself through that process. Even though you're mentoring someone else, you as a leader actually improve. So agree. And the failure part, I agree as well, in terms of whether they have that acronym. FAIL is the first attempt in learning, FAIL. And that's true, because if you can learn from it, then you can become a better person, leader, coach, whatever. And so I think those are awesome points. With that, Doctor, is there anything you'd like to wrap up in terms of just your overall thoughts about where we need to go in the law enforcement profession, how LEPSL will help get people there, and just your concluding thoughts?
I think we have to, from my business hat, we'd have to remarket what law enforcement is. And that's going to take the leadership we have. LEPSL, how do you think in the future? And sometimes one of the biggest lessons, I think, is it's not necessary to react. Let's back up a little bit. Let's see what's best. Is this best for that officer? Is this best for me as a chief or other law enforcement leader? Is this best for the community? And we have to reshape this image. We know that law enforcement has a murky past, and I think they're acknowledging that now. And we do have some bad apples, but then again, every career field has some bad apples. But we have to concentrate more on how we can serve the community, and the community is us. And that's kind of going back to Sir Robert Peel. The police are the people, and the people are the police. If we can remember that as a guiding principle, we have to do that. But we also have to understand there's some people that are going to be closed-minded. And then how do we change their mind? And the best way to change their mind is to be sincere, have integrity, be authentic. And you can break down those mental barriers that people have against us. And I've had people that say, wow, I thought you were going to be different because you're military. I thought you were different because you're in law enforcement. You're just like a human being. We are human beings. And we have to help people see that part of our life.
What an amazing way to close this podcast. I think that's great. I'm sure the listeners and viewers can definitely take a lot and apply just what you've spoken about over these last 25 minutes or so. And just doing that will definitely put them on a path to success. And Dr. Flores, many thanks for your time and sharing your experiences and knowledge with me today and all those who tuned in.
Oh, thank you, Chief. Chief Nayor, you're right up there. You're one of the best leaders I know of. Of course, you've been to my classes, but I appreciate the opportunity, and Kylie, I appreciate LEPSL considering me to share my thoughts with the world.
Of course, yeah. Thank you both so much. And thank you, viewers, for tuning in. We appreciate you taking the time out of your day to meet the law enforcement heroes and leaders who are a part of the LEPSL family. If you'd like to watch previous episodes of Blue Leadership, you can find them on the video tab of our Facebook page or by searching USD Blue Leadership on YouTube. And thank you, everyone, so much. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Nash. And we will see you all next time. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay.